friends, I'm Laura. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing the best exercises to lose weight. And not only are these exercises amazing for fat loss, but they're also gonna allow you to lose more weight on more calories so you can eat stuff like this. Oh. So believe it or not, but your routine in the gym should actually be structured similar to a cake. So if you're not sure what that means, keep watching and you will learn how to have your cake and your fat loss and how to eat it too. So you can compare compound movements and isolation movements to baking a cake. Compound movements would be the cake itself, so all of this, the actual main ingredients, and the isolation movements would be the toppings, like the icing, the whipped cream, stuff like that. When you think about the toppings of a cake, it sounds really yummy and fun, and you think, oh, like I want to just eat the toppings. So while that might sound appealing, the results wouldn't be so good. So it's the same as with isolation movements. Yeah, it sounds kind of more fun to just do isolation movements, but the results won't be so good. There's no quick fixes when it comes to fitness, but if you wanted to find the closest thing, it would be compound movements. So they help you gain lean muscle mass, they help you burn more calories, and they save time. Since more muscle groups are working, you are going to burn more calories and get more done in less time. Because of that, focusing on compound movements is such an effective way to reach your goals no matter what they are. They're excellent for fat loss. It's great for obviously reshaping your body, whether you want to gain a lot of size or just tone up. Compound movements are the answer and they will get you there quickest and most efficiently. Just like this flower. So you might be wondering, what are compound movements? Well, it's a lot like baking soda. Not actually. So compound movements are multi-joint movements that work multiple muscle groups at once. Because they're working multiple muscle groups at once, you're going to be burning more calories at once. And not only that, just splashed myself with the eggs, but when you are working multiple muscle groups at once like that, you're gonna burn more calories. Because if you're just working, say, a little bicep or a big bicep, you're not really burning that many calories. Whereas if you're doing, let's say, a full deadlift and that's full body, that's burning a lot of calories. So not only that, but when you do that, you're gonna be effectively building more muscle. And when you're effectively building more muscle, you increase your metabolism because people with more muscle burn more calories at rest. So that means your little muscular friend can be sitting around on the couch on the weekend, doing nothing and burning more calories than their friend who does not have muscle. Well, someone might be doing, like, say, a lot of cardio or little isolation movements and feeling like, oh, this is targeting the certain area, this is burning more calories because I'm moving really fast. That's not actually how it works. It's the toppings, it's the icing on the cake. The cake is the compound movements, so do not neglect them. So now, as we mix this together, let's talk about some examples of compound movements. So there's the typical ones, like people will say, like the big three, like squat, deadlift, bench. So a squat, obviously it's gonna work your entire lower body, you're gonna work your glutes, you're gonna work your quads, you're gonna work your hamstrings. There is some core involvement in there as well. I personally even will sometimes feel it a little bit in my upper back because I'll be squeezing to hold the bar. So you're really working everything. And not only that, but you'll actually find that sometimes when you're doing heavy squats, you're getting out of breath. So it's almost still working your cardiovascular system. So that's an excellent compound movement. Another one that's working even more muscle groups are deadlifts because you're working your full lower body, your hamstrings, your glutes, your quads, but you're also working your back. Some people will do deadlifts on back day and some people will do deadlifts on leg day, and neither of those people are wrong because they work both. So it's literally full body, lower back, upper back. You gotta keep your lats tight. You gotta keep your core tight. You gotta be keeping your butt tight and your legs tight. Like, that is full body. So again, like that is burning major calories. And when you're doing heavy compound movements like that, you're working your central nervous system, and that's just like, it's really good. It stimulates like growth hormone. So I think to girls that sounds like scary, but it's not. It's honestly just, that's what you want. That's gonna help shape and tone and make your body the way you want it to be. Like these dance moves. But then we also have movements like, say, barbell rows. So when you're doing a barbell row, you are working multiple muscle groups in your upper body. You have to be stabilizing yourself nice and firmly as you bend over and hold the bar. So that's gonna be working your core a little bit. Obviously, you have to really be bracing your legs in order to fully support the rest of your body. It's working a lot of muscle groups. Another great one, even something like dumbbell rows, even though it's only one arm, like that's a bigger movement. Like that's really like a big movement. A big movement. Another good one would be overhead press. So with a barbell, like same thing, you gotta be really bracing your legs, you gotta be bracing the core, and then when you're pushing up, that's obviously not just one muscle group. All of these things, when you're working multiple muscle groups like this, you're getting so much more done in less time. I used to do primarily isolation movements, and I thought that it was better for like getting an aesthetic physique because I wanted to focus more on glutes. I didn't want my quads to grow, and I did that, and I did not have nearly as good results as I have now. I couldn't eat as many calories as I have now. I didn't look as toned, like even my abs weren't as good, even though I actually trained abs more back then. So there's just endless benefits for compound movements. If I didn't mention this, you could eat more calories. So that alone, I feel like is a pretty good reason to do your compound movements. I don't know why you wouldn't. Another really great thing that the compound movements are going to do is, this is scary, as you're losing body fat, your main goal should always be to maintain as much muscle as possible, because if you're not maintaining muscle, your metabolism can slow down, you'll start to look skinny fat. So rather than losing weight and toning up, you'll just look like a smaller, squishier version of yourself, which is not most people's goals, but that's what's gonna happen if you're losing muscle mass. So people will say like, oh, I'm gonna do like my heavy compound movements when I'm bulking, and I'm gonna do my lighter stuff when I'm cutting, but that's definitely not how it should go, because what builds muscle when you're bulking is what maintains muscle when you're cutting, and it's vital. If you want to be cutting on a decent amount of calories, if you want to look toned, quote unquote, if you want to even like say maintain glute size, like stuff like that, anything, there's just never a reason not to maintain your muscle mass when you're cutting, because it's just going to make your results so much better. I didn't do enough compound movements. This bowl is too heavy. Thanks, compound movements. I love being an adult because I'm like living my childhood fantasies. You can eat as much like, cake mix as you want. Like that was my dream when I was little. All right, so we're gonna go and we're gonna put our compound movements in the oven. So some more examples of compound movements. So lunges can fall into the compound movement category. That's working multiple muscle groups. It surely falls into the cardio category because I get so out of breath when I do lunges. Even lat pull downs, that's working multiple muscle groups in your upper body. Even pull-ups and chin-ups, working multiple muscle group. It's hard to say. Anything where it's not working one muscle. So I got cake mix on my arm. This is a mess, I'm telling you. Anything working multi-joint. So those types of exercises are what you want to be doing around 80% of your time in the gym. Like I'll start off my workout with all of those, and then I'll finish off with a couple isolation movements. So I'm gonna put a full list of compound movements and isolation movements in the description box just in case, because I know I definitely missed some. Say when I said deadlifts, that's gonna include all variations of deadlifts. It all falls into the same cake, so yes. So now we're gonna make our icing and we're gonna talk about isolation movements. I'm really excited for the icing. Let's get started. Okay, So now, as we talk about our isolation movements, we are gonna make our icing. I just love how the words even sound alike. Like cake, compound movement, icing, isolation movement. Like, did the inventor of the gym name it after cake? I think so. You may have figured this out by now, as I explained details. Ooh. So as I explained details about compound movements, you may have kind of grasped a little bit what isolation movements are. So it's a single joint exercise working a single muscle at a time. So when it comes to, say, legs, that would be something like a leg curl or a leg extension. It could also be like say something like a cable kickback, like it's just working one muscle. So while those are muscles we do still want it work, it's not what you want your primary routine to be built around. Like if you go into the gym and you're just doing leg extensions and leg curls, like that's not very effective. That's not providing very much stimulus. So we don't want to do that. And when it comes to upper body, say just any like bicep or tricep exercise, that's all isolation movements. And the thing is, even if you care a lot, like say if you're someone who really wants nice biceps or you really want nice triceps, those are still going to be worked in other movements, because that's why compound movements, they work multiple muscle groups, so they are still working that movement. So say when you're doing a lat pull down, even though you're doing a lat pull down and you're like, oh, I'm working my back, well, you're also working your biceps. So they are still going to get that work. And for me lately, I feel like my biceps have been looking pretty decent and I don't really do any biceps at all. So it just goes to show that like they will be worked. A lot of shoulders movements that I adore are considered isolation movements. So say any rear delt is an isolation movement because that's a very small muscle. So yeah, that's obviously isolation. Lateral raises, that is an isolation. So those are like my favorite isolation movements because I swear by those to shape a beautiful shoulder. Oh gosh. I don't know how this is gonna work. That's why like those things are thrown on top. Let's say I wanted to work shoulders and triceps. I'll usually start off with my benching because I do powerlifting, so the two of my upper body days do start with benching. And that will take up quite a bit because there'll be two different bench type exercises and there'll be a lot of sets because it's powerlifting. So I'll do that, that'll be most of the workout. And then after that, I'll do some shoulders. So I'll do my lateral raises and like some triceps, like some skull crushers and just a few little exercises with supersets. And those are my isolation movements. And same as like on a leg day, I would start off with my squats and my deadlifts, and then I would do my lunges and my hip thrusts. And then I would possibly end with like say a leg curl and a leg extension. So it's the icing on top. It is literally the icing on top of the workout. And someone might say like, oh, well, I want to build, oh, this is a mess, my glutes and not my quads. But the thing is like, it's not going to grow your quads because I had that fear. And see, this is how you feel. You're like, I feel my butt burning, like, this feels like everything I want. Like, this is all I want. Compound movements, they're harder. They're harder. Like, it's not as appealing to do. They're hard. It takes a lot of energy. When you think of them, you're just like, oh God, that sounds really hard. And typically, like, you don't really think that way when you think about isolation movements. And that's like this with the icing. Like, look how freaking easy that was. Look how delicious this is. This is really appealing. I think the average person is more likely to be like, let's just quickly whip up some icing. And that's the same in the gym. People are more inclined to do isolation movements and just whip up some isolations. But that's not what they should do. But it tastes awful good. To be honest, icing is better than isolation movements. I can't stop eating the icing. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna add to my compound movements? AKA cake. I feel like this is what the majority of Instagram is like when it comes to workouts. Like you see this, so that you'll see all these like random little booty exercises and you're gonna be like, that looks so good. And then you're gonna do it and you're like, oh my God, that feels so good. Like my glutes are burning. And then you're gonna be like, this is so much fun. Like this is just like so much more appealing. And that's how everyone thinks. And it's like the same. But no, I do not care. I don't care. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. I'm gonna put this icing away, put the isolation movements away, and save them for the end. Save them for the end. We are overdoing it on the isolation movements right now. Overdoing it. Overdoing it. When are my compound movements gonna be done in the oven? They smell so good. See, and they take longer too. Compound movements, they can take a little bit longer because you gotta rest a bit more between sets because they're a bit more tiring. It's like the cakes. And like, it's like we're waiting for the cake because we want to add the icing, but we can't add the icing until the cake is done. And it's the same at the gym. You can't add the isolation movements until the compound movements are done. I'm having so much fun with this analogy, you guys. All right, it's done. It's done. So this is the compound movement and this is the isolation movement. So yes, now we can actually see. Oh gosh, I'm messing it up. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. I wish this was bread so I could say beautiful buns because of our compound movements. We've got our beautiful cake / compound movements, and we've got our scrumptious icing / isolation movements. This is not looking very aesthetic, let me tell you that. Sometimes you do your isolation movements and you don't do them properly, and this is what happens. Come on now, don't say Roxy. Baxter is a dog with compound movements, and Roxy is also a dog with compound movements. And maybe at the end, they'll have a little bit of isolation movements. Alrighty guys, and that is it for today. We've got our entire workout routine all laid out on this platter. If you guys liked this video, check out some of my other videos. I've got tons of other tips on how to structure your workouts and your nutrition in the most effective, enjoyable way possible. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And that's it. I will see you guys in the next one. And now I'm gonna eat my cake. Bye!